everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast Baseball Talk. We've got a great show for you, but today first we are powered by Game 7 Baseball, game7baseball.com. Finishing the fall, few tournaments left. If you're looking to get into a tournament, go to game7baseball.com. Check out what they have going on. We're going to be working towards our winter workout tour. We got some cool stuff coming up this summer, spring and summer with Game 7. So stay tuned for that. We're going to introduce it a little bit with our winter workout tours. We always do. And we've got a bit of a road show coming up, don't we, Lauren? Oh, yeah. It's going to be fun. We're looking forward to it. So check out game7baseball.com. If you're looking for some fall ball, get registered, finish up your baseball season. But today, special guest on the show, head coach from Willard High School, Scott McGee. Scott, thanks for joining us today, man.
Thanks for letting me come on and talk a little bit about Southwest Missouri baseball.
Absolutely. And as always, the guru himself, Mr. Kevin Mulder, Prep Baseball Report. Kevin, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well.
Good deal. We got next Tuesday, we're going to be out with you at the GCS ballpark. Got a good event coming up, right?
Yeah, and we did have a small change. We switched our venue. We're going to be at St. Louis University for the event. So excited about that. Obviously, the Division I program in the city. So we're excited to be going down to St. Louis U for the Battle for the Arch.
Ah, cool. That's a lot shorter drive for me. I don't mind that. It's a shorter drive for you too, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I don't mind that a bit. But that's so cool, folks. We're going to live stream the actual baseball game that's going on after that. We've done this. This is our third year doing that one. This will be fun.
It is. Yeah, third year with it.
It'll be we've always had a good time talking, meeting kids, and it always gives you a little preview. Most of these kids, Kevin, are juniors and seniors, correct?
For the most part, yes. We're looking at juniors and seniors. This event is specifically designed for the uncommitted upperclassmen.
Gotcha. There you go. So get you a good look at that, and we're going to have a lot of fun over there next Tuesday.
So we opened up in 2019, and basically there was a void in the area. I mean, we saw that there was an opportunity to.
Let's get into this. I've reached out to Coach McGee, and we had him on the last time. It was last year. My gosh, this just went like, phew, geez. Here we are in September already. But had him on the show talking about baseball in the Southwest. A lot of great information, and we want to get to know the Southwestern part of the state a little bit better. Now, Coach, I've shown that there are two conferences basically down the Ozark, Central Ozark and the Ozark. Is that correct?
Yes, that is. There's also a conference called the Big Eight that tends to be a lot more Class 4 programs, but there are some good ones there too. Rogersville, Marshfield, Catholic, they all have Division I players. But as far as Class 5 and Class 6, it's the COC and the OC are the two primary conferences.
Okay, I do have that information. Is that like Cassville too? Is Cassville?
Cassville is in the Big Eight. Yes, they are. Some of those schools are really good at baseball, and some are just there.
Yeah,
When you're looking
yeah.
at top to bottom, they're probably not as strong. But there's a few teams in that league, and a few that get to the Final Four, and will play Class 5 and Class 6 schools, and so that is down here. But as far as the two primary ones, it's the COC and the OC.
Gotcha. Yeah. And, I'm looking at that as you were saying. McDonald County, I think they were in the playoff last year too, right?
They have been, yes. I think they lost the district championship game to Webb City in Class 5, and then Webb ended up making it to the Final Four.
Right,
So,
right. And down there, I'm seeing Aurora, Hollister, Logan, Rogersville. I hadn't seen this. I have all this. I made this big spreadsheet, and I'm going back to this and trying to learn. That's the biggest thing. I'm trying to group everything. But Marshfield, Mount Vernon, Reeds, excuse me, got to put the S on that, right?
You do have to, yeah.
Reeds, Spring, and then Springfield Catholic, of course. The two powerhouses there really are Logan, Rogersville, and Springfield Catholic, aren't they?
Yeah, year in, year out, they're really good. Hollister's had some good teams. If you go back 4 or 5 years, Aurora had a few dudes. Gage Singer, Wyatt Sparks, who's now in the Texas Rangers organization. They ended up winning a state title in, I want to say, 18 or 19 in Class 3 or 4 at the time. But as far as year in, year out, it's Logan, Rogersville, and Springfield Catholic. Those schools are about 8 miles from each other. They've always been in the same district. But now Catholic, due to the championship factor, is going to jump a class. So Springfield Catholic this year will be Class 5. And they lost some big-time arms in Coleman Morrison, who's at Jeffco, and Ben Smith, who's at Mizzou. Ben's got a little brother who's a 2026 who's committed to Mizzou as well. But so that will impact that class a little bit. But those would be the cream of the crop, and gives Rogersville a really good shot in Class 4, led by left-handed pitcher Ross Lawrence, who's going to Missouri State and plays for Adidas in the summer, and does a good job.
Kevin, you've followed those teams pretty regularly. You've talked a lot about Logan Rogersville over the last couple of years, haven't you?
Yeah, I took that game in last spring and was really impressed with both of them. Yeah, honestly, I was down there and Logan Rogersville got the better of Catholic that day. And, in my opinion, Catholic pulled off a little bit of an upset. I don't know what the view was down there, but Logan Rogersville had an outstanding team and season. But shows you how competitive and how tough the districts are in the Springfield area, and they were upended by Springfield Catholic, who Coach mentioned had a really good ball club last season. So both really good teams, both played would step up in class, if you will, and would play 5 and 6A and hold their own when the right guys were on the mound.
How do you see that with Catholic, Kevin, having to step up into that Class 5? That's a big jump for that school.
So yeah, this is a tough go, and Misha and the coaches have worked this out where they jump up in class. The difficult part about that is year to year, you had the success with a group of kids. Those kids are gone, and now the kids that are left are going to play up in class. So hopefully they have a good wave of players behind them. I know of some of them. Coach touched on Jack Smith, who's committed to Mizzou, will be a sophomore at Springfield Catholic. The younger brother, Ben Smith. They'll certainly have good players, but they're not seniors yet, and there might be some growing pains there potentially.
I think that's always tough, and you've made mention of that before on the show, Kevin. The guys that come after are dealing with the success of teams before and having to go up here, and you're like, hey, man, that ain't right. I think it's tough. I understand it, but I think it's tough. And we're a little spoiled up here because we deal with conferences like the GAC, the MCC. I know I'm missing the one south with Jackson and all those guys, Kevin. Gosh, I can't think of it right off the top of my head. But the more we're talking about these things, you look at this Big 8 conference, and then you come over here, as Coach was saying, to the I got to get to it. Central Ozark. You're talking Branson, Carl Junction, Carthage, Joplin, Neosho, Nixa, Ozark, Republic, Webb City, and Willard. That's your guys' conference. Did I miss anybody, or is there anybody not there?
No, that's it. We've got 5 Springfield area schools and 5 Joplin area schools in this conference. If you go back since 2018, we've always had a team in the Final Four, or sometimes 2, and that's never been the team that won the conference, which is a pretty cool little stat. So last year, Republic and Willard shared the conference title, but Webb City and Nixa made it to the Final Four. And then in 19, 21, and 22, Willard made the Final Four, but we didn't win the conference any of those 3 years. So there's this like pocket of every year there's 5 or 6 really good ones, and then the teams who aren't good, it's just because they're young, and then they kind of move into that top 5 or 6, and so it makes it for really competitive baseball.
Just Coach saying that, it made me think of the SEC and just how competitive, when you're in a competitive environment and a team wins the conference or wins the conference tournament, yet they don't advance to the state championship. You see that all the time in the SEC. A team will win the SEC, and then like the team that finishes 4th, even 5th, might win the national championship. So it's, we talk about this all the time on the show, how just being in competitive environments, challenging your teams prepares you for postseason success. And, you can even win your league. We touched on Logan Rogersville a little bit earlier, having a great regular season and then getting upset in the districts. But you prepare your team for a postseason environment, and you see teams make good runs, even if they don't win their league or their conference in the regular season.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. You see this in St. Louis too, I'm sure. But on our conference plays Tuesday, Thursday, and you play 2 different opponents. And so every week you see everyone throws their number 1 on Tuesday and their number 2 on Thursday for the most part. So even if you're not a great team, your 1 and 2 is pretty good. Everyone's got a pretty good 1 and 2 in Class 5 and 6 baseball. And so you're facing those guys, and it really prepares everyone for postseason play.
There it is. We talk about that all the time with the GAs, and I think that's the beauty of conference play. And you guys play on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Is that what you said, Coach?
Yes.
I think that. I love that part of the high school aspect and that conference play, because I think that does create that atmosphere. You're setting your rotation. How are you? You're seeing those guys. Scouting reports. You're playing teams every year. Of course, you may not see the same kids year in and year out, but you're seeing a lot of the same kids year in, year out. And how are you teaching kids to prepare? Because scouting reports are very important. Do you guys deal with that? And do you put those? Do you make those priorities within the conference?
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. The other thing that really separates us down here is you play the varsity game at 4:30, and then you play a full 7-inning game right afterwards, and against that same opponent. And people take JV baseball pretty seriously, and so you are all even kind of building your scouting report for the next year off those JV guys. And just baseball's a really small world. It's a small community, so we get an idea of what a kid from Republic can hit and can't hit as a freshman and sophomore. And so their first time as a junior in the lineup, you're going to see if they've made those adjustments. And so that's why you see some guys that maybe were pretty good JV players. It's a pretty big jump to varsity because the scouting reports get way more serious. And we get to see those guys play. Some of us are in a fall league right now, so I'm getting to watch kids from other schools play, just sitting in the stands. You see kids in the summer. And so you see kids so much that then you get to those conference games, and I feel like I have a pretty good notebook on how to pitch everyone, by the time we get to that point. And so your scores tend to be pretty low.
Not many secrets, right, Coach?
Not many secrets. No. Word gets out really quick.
Yeah.
I think that to me, and we're creating these places where in Missouri there's so much competitive baseball, and we're going to see. I think Nixa is going to be right there again. They've got some really talented players. Kevin can kind of speak to that. You've seen some of these kids recently, haven't you, Kevin?
Yeah, Nick's had a couple really talented sophomores last year that started varsity during their state Final Four run. Caden Cloud, um, who just committed to Kentucky, starting shortstop, and then Wyatt Vincent, who's committed to Missouri State. So super talented group, and expect them to be around for the next couple years as well.
And that third fourth place game, or they call it third place game, between Nixa and Jackson was a tremendous baseball game at the state level. I mean, I believe Jackson ended up winning 2-1. So you're talking about some serious, as you said, not a lot of high scores, because these guys this is tremendous top end talent pitching wise. You're seeing a lot of these schools, and that's what you're facing week in, week out, correct?
Yeah, we are, and us and Nixa play each other obviously every spring, and we had a good game with them last year, and just kind of the way it works. We actually beat them 6-1 in the regular season, but you could see their talent, and they had played really well. They actually had just beat Jackson the weekend before we played them pretty handily down here in the regular season. The good thing about Jackson is Jackson will travel all over the state to play good people. Not discrediting SEMO, but I think if you look at the pockets of the state, that's probably our weakest baseball area. And then Jackson covers that up by going to St. Louis. They're going to Columbia. They're coming to Southwest Missouri, and that really allows them to advance. But he is right. Caden Cloud and Wyatt Vincent are high-level junior baseball players, both Division I commits. They also have Jack Edwards, who's a catcher going to Drury, who's a senior, and Ryland Michelle, who was a second baseman, moved to the outfield. He is going to Crowder. And then they returned their top two arms, who were both sophomores last year, Jackson Gamble and Colin Kelly. They'll both be juniors this year. So I think when you're looking down in our area, Nix is probably the number one team entering 2024. And then there's going to be a group of 5 or 6 in that next tier that might catch them. But Nix is going to be the one we're chasing basically from day one of the season.
Oh, wow. There you go, Kevin.
They get the target on the back, huh, Coach?
They get the target on the back this year. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I'm sure Logan's going to like that target on his back, but those top 3 guys are so athletic. You're talking about, they go Vincent, Michelle, Cloud hitting 1, 2, 3, and it's 3 of the best athletes in this area. Cloud's a high-level soccer player. Vincent's a very good football and basketball player. Michelle's a good football player. So, they're athletic kids, and they show that on the diamond for sure.
Wow. Love that. See, and that to me, that goes to and I'm sure, Kevin, when you start talking about rankings, when you're talking about your preseason rankings and how those things, having this kind of information helps develop that in a better way, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And you gather a lot of it during the winter. But, yeah, teams from the Final Four or the postseason that you've seen before with young groups, young rosters, you can almost expect them to develop and be even a little bit better next year. We were sitting there, 2 years ago talking, Ryan, about the 6A Final Four, and we were looking at the roster and we're like, man, Liberty North and Francis Howell are going to probably be better next year than they are this year, sitting here in Springfield at the Final Four. And, that was our state championship game, and Liberty North ended up, winning the deal. But typically that's how it works, right, Coach? You have sophomores that are on the varsity and they gain experience and they become even better. And you have a number of those guys in your program now that have been on the varsity program with you for 2, 3, even going on 4 years, correct?
We do. We have some seniors this year that play in the state title game as freshmen and play in the Final Four as sophomores, and we're everyday guys as juniors. And so, I think when you're a freshman a freshman playing varsity in a Class 5 or 6 program is an aberration. And if you're doing that, you're a highly not just skilled player, but your athleticism and strength has to match that of a 17-year-old. That's not easy to do. But if you're a sophomore and you can just survive varsity baseball, that means as a junior and senior, you should be a pretty good player. And so when you see teams that are starting multiple sophomores in a Final Four, you say, man, as juniors and seniors, that team is going to be loaded. And you saw that with Howell. You saw that you go back to Norfleet and McCutcheon and those guys that they were playing young in their career, and you saw what they turned out to be, some of the best players in this state of any class. So Nix is going to be in that boat this year for sure.
And if you're watching Mizzou football, you're seeing Brett Norfleet on the field as a freshman, playing a pretty integral part of their offense. I'm like, dang,
huge red zone catch this past Saturday. Yeah.
Yes, he did. So that's cool. I'm so glad for Norfleet. He is a great kid there too. Kevin, those are things that you've been talking about. I love that what you said there, Coach, reiterating that, because as a freshman, you say it's an aberration. Kevin's been talking about people don't understand the level that it takes. Because what's your line, Kevin? It's boys high school baseball and men's college baseball.
Yes. Well, Brett Norfleet was a man playing boys high school baseball. I will say that. He was physically different than the rest of them.
Exactly. But I love the way you put that, Coach, that the physicality has to match as a freshman that of a 17-year-old kid. And I don't think we necessarily understand that just looking back as fans, people watching the game. Well, he's as good as that guy. No. And Kevin says that all the time. No, he's not. He has the ability, the talent to be as good, but not quite there. And sometimes that's just the physical presence, right, guys?
Yeah, definitely. I think you see guys that come in as freshmen that are every bit as skilled as maybe even other freshmen, and then you wonder, why is that freshman getting an opportunity? Well, it's really hard to play varsity baseball if you weigh 150 pounds. It's really hard to play. I mean, you've got to have some. You're not looking at college lineups of guys weighing 150, 160, 165. There's a reason for that. You've got to have some physicality to your game, and until you can get committed to the weight room, which is hard to do as an elementary or middle school kid, and so you really see their growth there. And so you see guys, if you see a guy surviving as a sophomore, you say, man, put 15 pounds on that kid as a junior. And that's what we're going to see this year out of some guys here in our area and up in your guys' area as well.
Thoughts, Kevin?
No, he's absolutely right. We've hit on that, a lot. And the strength plays such a, we I think a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, we talked about, how to prepare for high school baseball. And I mentioned that, when you get to about 8th grade and certainly 9th grade, the strength training becomes such a key factor. If you're going to be a varsity player, it's more than skill. And when you're a youth player, you're going to be good based on your skill, and, you can train and become a better hitter, a better fielder, a better pitcher, learn a secondary pitch, etc. But it takes a little bit more than that to be a successful varsity player for most of the players. To me, it's in the weight room.
I think that's a great point, Kevin, because we talk about, and if here's a plug for that, go back a couple weeks ago, we did talk about that. Go check it out. It was a good show. But when you're talking about youth baseball, and we talk about this all the time, what does development mean in youth baseball? Well, I think it is that. I think it's about the skill. How do you, footwork? How do you field a ground ball? Your hitting mechanics, your throwing mechanics, because these kids are not, there's no maturity there. So the best thing you can do is teach them about the game, the mechanics of the game, the thinking of the game, and then when they mature physically, you hope to have all that physical focus in place for the maturity then to take over and rise their athleticism and bring that to bear. I think that's a positive thing.
I'm sure Coach sees this almost on a yearly basis. The kid that comes into the program that is we're talking about freshmen now, that comes in and he's fully developed, matured physically, and is a really nice freshman baseball player on his freshman baseball team or his JV program. But then, and is a good player, but is probably kind of the same guy when he's a senior. And then there's the the kid that is 145, 150 pounds that is on the freshman team, but not a guy, or at least not an impact guy. And all of a sudden, he's a star player when he's a junior or senior because he's grown, he's gained strength, and he's had to work his butt off to catch up to the other guys and physically matured later. Am I
And I'm
right,
glad
Coach?
Kevin
Does
brought.
that happen?
That happens so much more than people realize, and this rush to get everyone ready as a freshman really cheats out some of that second group of kids you just mentioned. That's why I love that some of these recruiting rules have changed. That allows a college and allows a kid to develop at his own pace. Because you can't rush puberty, you can't rush the physical development with some of these guys, and so now that colleges have to wait a little bit to make some of these decisions, that early developer that hasn't gotten any better in 12 months is going to be exposed a little bit. And that later developer now has a legitimate chance to go on to a school that's a good baseball school that maybe we weren't getting just 3 or 4 years ago when everyone was offering 14-year-olds all the time.
I agree. I love that part of it. Let's take a look real quick as we finish up here to this part of it, the Ozark. So you have the COC and then the OC, correct?
Yes, correct. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's the way it goes.
Hey, I dig it. It doesn't get much easier here. Bolivar, Camdenton, Glendale, Hillcrest Central, Kickapoo, Lebanon, Parkview, Rolla, Waynesville, West Plains. Now, the one that's interesting to me, though, I mean, these are all pretty, but when I saw West Plains High School and their mascot, the Zizzers,
Yeah.
I was like, what the heck is a Zizzer? You got to tell me, what's a Zizzer, Coach? Do you know?
A zizzer is a lightning bolt, a bolt of lightning.
Oh, okay.
It's called a zizzer, and so that's what they're named after. And West Plains is about 2.5 hours away from some of the other schools in their conference. Really good football school. And you guys might know some of their guys. Tank Sims is a senior that's going to SEMO. That if he can gain 15 pounds while keeping his agility, he is going to be a really nice Division I baseball player. He's got a nice left-handed swing. Kevin can probably speak more to him. And then they had a couple freshman pitchers that were pretty good this past spring.
I was actually just talking to Coach Sawyers from SEMO about Tank Sims this past week at a recruiting event, and I told him I think he's got a steal because 20 pounds from now, that guy is going to be an absolute beast in college baseball. He's going to be a no doubt double-digit home run type guy in collegiate baseball, and he's got all the stuff that you're looking for. Good left-handed swing, tall, lean, physical going to be a physical catcher. The Zizzers and really that you named a couple of Camdenton. The Lakers have had a really strong showing and led by the Durnan boys. They've had 3 there, and now the oldest is off at Wichita. But Cade is coming up next, and is a big arm. He's been up to 94 or 5, and is only going to continue to get better. And the youngest one has started varsity since a freshman. At one point, you had a Durnan at third, short, and second base. So it's been fun to watch.
The one they've got now, the senior now, Cade, maybe the best pitcher in the state this year. Not only is he's been up to 95. He may have even touched 96 out in California back in early August. I can't remember. It was close to that. I know he hit 95 multiple times. He's got some athleticism to his delivery. He's the starting quarterback. The slider works already. Development of a third pitch, but I've heard some buzz that he could get drafted. I'm sure Kevin, you're way more tied into that world than I am, but he's noticeable in our area as the top pitcher for this year.
And he's physical. I mean, yeah, you're right, Coach. He's definitely be on the radar this spring, and that's what the pro guys look for, certainly. And there's certainly projection there, and it'll be up to the young man. Obviously, he'll have to go out and produce this spring, but he's going to get an opportunity. That's for sure.
We'll have to do this another time, but I keep, used to the changeup was always kind of a secondary pitch, and you always heard changeup, changeup, changeup. But man, the slider is becoming more and more of that secondary pitch. It seems to me.
You say that, and I do agree that I think guys work honestly a little too much on their slider. If you talk to any really good hitter, the hardest pitch to hit is the changeup, and I'm shocked every time that I see these lefties coming in. And I listen to your guys' thing talking about incoming, getting ready for high school baseball. But if you have a left-handed son, he needs to be throwing that changeup as much as he can before his freshman year, because you just look at the guys that have good changeups. The guy that's at Staley now, and I wish I could tell you his name, that's going to Iowa. Really, really good changeup lefty.
Brody Earlbeck.
Yes. Really nice changeup. I mean, I won't be surprised if he's not getting major innings as a freshman in that program, just because that is a pitch that really high-level hitters struggle to square up. And I do think this, when we're looking at velocity development, the slider becomes an easier pitch to develop just to match your fastball. But you are right. I think more kids are throwing sliders. If I could change that, I would say more kids need to be developing their changeup.
Brian, we could do a whole show on this, and Coach knows this, that the reason this is happening is you start at the younger levels. Kids cannot hit a spinning ball. So the lower level, you're going to have a lot of early success. If you can teach a kid how to flip a breaking ball of any sort, a curveball or slider in there, they're going to dominate middle school baseball. They're going to be very good in high school baseball. But as hitters get stronger and not even stronger, as hitters develop, the breaking ball is easier for them to hit than a good changeup. So developing a good changeup is certainly a tougher pitch for higher level hitters to hit than a breaking ball. There's multiple reasons for it, though, too. Hand size, as a young player, it's tough to throw a good changeup because their hands aren't full sized yet either. So you do have to have a more developed hand to grip the baseball properly to throw a changeup. But Coach is right. If you get the changeup going, once you get to the higher levels of a good varsity pitching coach, certainly college coaches, they're almost always going to be able to teach a kid some sort of breaking ball, whether that's a slider or a curveball. I guarantee if you pull the college coaches, they will say, give me that kid with the good changeup. Obviously, you want the fastball, and then we'll develop a breaking ball. That can be done in a couple months. The changeup takes a long time because it's a field pitch.
Boy, that ain't no lie. It is a field. And, I heard some advice early on because Justin, he pitched, and one instructor looked at his hands and he goes, oh, he's got long fingers. And I think, so he started developing the changeup early with him because Justin had longer fingers. His fingers are longer than mine, but his hand's the same size. And he could grip the ball because his fingers, if you got short, chubby sausages, it might be a little more difficult to pitch because can you get the spin rate correct? And I know we're going to get off. I'm not trying to get off. There's something for you.
It's very advantageous to have long fingers as a pitcher.
There you go. All right. Get through that. All these conferences, these are going to be very good conferences. As any, I'm sure there's schools that maybe aren't as good. As you said, West Plains is, a really good football school, and we understand that. But we're looking forward to kind of following this. And hopefully, Coach, we're going to get into that a little bit more, and love having you talk about this conference. And we're going to keep you coming back. I hope you're willing to do that because I think it's fantastic. I love talking about this. And one of the things, and I'm gonna say this because we talked about it off air, but we're hoping to get down. Hopefully, you got lights on your house down there, don't you?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, pretty much. I think everyone down here does. Yeah.
I'm going to jump in and make one comment. Just from I travel around the entire state and watch high school baseball games in the spring. The southwest part of our state has the nicest facilities, top to bottom, consistently. Now, yes, Chaminade for my money is probably the nicest. But if you want to talk about like wall, lights, grandstands, press box, atmospheres, the southwest part of the state does it, in my opinion, and the rest of the state hopefully needs to take notice and start catching up.
Oh, wow. Well, one of our goals, and we talked with Coach McGee about this, is to get down and live stream a game at Willard, find an opponent there, and that's one of our goals for this this coming spring, because we want to showcase some more baseball throughout the state. And Coach McGee's program's been at the top for a while and does a great job there, and we appreciate him taking the time, and that's something we want to do. Hopefully maybe we can work it out where I don't know if you want to do this one or not, Coach, but maybe that Willard Nixa.
That's actually what I was thinking. That'd be a really good one to do. So
That'll be a fun one there.
That would be fun. So we'll have to do that. We'll have to check and see what we can work out, but that's one of our goals, get down there and watch some really high-level baseball happening in the southwest part of this state. Coach, talk to us a little bit about your team. How you guys looking?
yeah, we'll be good. This will be the deepest team we've had. As far as I can see 16 different guys getting varsity at bats for us, and pitching has kind of been the name of our game. And this will be the best pitching staff we've had as far as depth wise in quite some time. Nix is that cream of the crop in our conference. I think Glendale, who's in the Ozark Conference, they've got some offensive firepower with Norman and Ross and those guys all coming back. Losing Kettering's going to hurt, but they're going to be really good. I think we're in that second tier behind Nixa and probably Glendale at this point. But our depth of pitching, Hayden Larson is a senior lefty who's going to Fort Scott. Cameron Jennings, who is up into the upper 80s, will be probably our one or two with Hayden. He's going to College of the Ozarks as a two-way guy. He had some bigger opportunities as just a pitcher, but he really wants to hit in college as well. So those two will kind of lead us. We've got a sophomore named Levi Hilton who actually hit 86 last night. Physical guy, right-hander that is going to be probably in the middle of our order and in our rotation. And so I think that's going to be kind of probably our front three. Russell Roten, who's our quarterback, will get a lot of innings for us. He's also one of our best basketball players, and he's probably going to play college football, but he'll be in there too. So, and after that, we've got a big group of strike throwers who we've kind of prided ourselves on not walking people. The last couple of years, I've had some really good stuff guys like Chris Massey, who's at Central Missouri, and Clayton Kaiser, who's at Drury, who also had a lot of swing and miss. But if you go back over the last 10 years, getting a strikeout to walk ratio of 4-1 has kind of been our goal, and I think that's going to be the way this pitching staff will be. We'll be that 4 Ks to 1 walk type of guy, and so that's going to be our headliners is our pitching staff.
Kevin, you can speak to this, and I think this is an interesting, what he said, a 4-1 strikeout to walk ratio in high school is impressive. I think it's impressive at any level in that respect.
Yeah, I was going to say anyway, yeah.
But when you're talking about high school kids, pitching to contact, there's always the argument, you hear at the major league level, you want swing and miss stuff. And I think sometimes we have a hard time separating those things from high school to college to the pros. And I love what you said, Coach. We want to throw strikes. Don't give free bases. Put the ball in play. If they beat you, they beat you. Is that, how do you see that and assess that when you're looking at kids? And how many actual swing and miss kids are really there at that level?
Well, the big league baseball game and high school baseball game is two completely different things. So at the high school level, if you preach, and it's true at all levels, but if you get strike throwers and you play clean defense, you're going to be a very, very good team. I could probably name, yes, I can think of 2 kids in the state. Well, there was only a handful of hitters that could truly hurt you in high school baseball last year. And I don't name them because I'll leave someone off. But there's a handful. In the big leagues, it's literally every single guy can hit the ball into the upper deck, basically. So it's a different deal. You have to have swing and miss, because if you don't, if you let guys put the ball in play in consistent basis, there's going to be a lot of doubles, a lot of home runs. In high school baseball, you might run into one guy a game on the opposing team that can do that to you. And yeah, sure, Liberty North or one of the elite teams might have a handful of guys that can do that to you. But if you can throw strikes, you are going to be successful in the high school game. Quite honestly.
Yeah, and so we've kind of made a point to we don't pitch guys who don't throw strikes. I mean, it's a we've had some guys. I know that sounds funny. We have had guys that throw 85 to 87, and they just don't pitch for us because I kind of ran a little bit of a statistical study, and we kind of feel like on base percentage is about 3 times as valuable as slugging percentage in high school baseball. That is not true in the major leagues. Slugging right now, when you look at runs created, slugging is actually a little bit more important than on base percentage, just because of the power dynamic there. So if you just reverse engineer that, the most important part of this is that we don't allow anybody to get on base, not necessarily through stuff, but through limiting your walks, hit by pitches, things of that nature. And so that is a primary focus of ours. We do train velocity as well because all these guys want to pitch in college. But even in college baseball, I look at guys all the time that they might throw in the 90s, but they're only getting 10 innings a season, and because they throw too many balls. And so what works for you on game day is throwing the ball over the plate. And if you can throw multiple pitches over the plate for strikes, you're going to be a really effective pitcher in high school baseball, even if your velocity is just 80 miles an hour.
And to that point, if you're talking about then soft contact, what's your percentage of soft contact? And that means then ground balls rolling over. And to Kevin's point, if you're preaching defense and you got guys that can field a ground ball and are focused and understand what it takes, and you got a guy on the mound that's going to throw ground balls, it's the old adage. I hate to quote a movie, but it's just true. Strikeouts are fascist, man. Throw some ground balls. They're more democratic.
And you speak to defense, and that's probably this will probably be the best infield defense we've had. Landon Moore, who's a 4-year starter, will be back at third base for us. Drew Quinlan, who's a 3-year starter, will be at either second or first. Matthew Angel, who actually just attended a PBR event over Labor Day weekend over at Creekside, will be our shortstop. He's a junior, high-level defender as well. So with those 3 defensively on the infield, we feel very comfortable every time a ground ball is hit that it's going to be converted into an out. I think those guys last year, I believe they combined for 16 errors playing every day. We played 37 games. So when you're only getting 16 errors out of those positions, we feel really good about our chances.
Coach, I got a quick question because we talk about it on the show, not about a specific program in general, but you can kind of tell the teams that you'll see a team make it to the Final Four or even win a state championship, but then never see them again or not see them for 8 years or so. But then there's teams that are consistently there or right on the cusp, and you'll see them at least every third year. It's certainly one of those programs. I don't feel. Yes, you have very talented players, but players change. It's not professional sports. You have them for a handful of years, 4 years, and then they're on to college. Talk about creating a program like you do that's been so successful. I feel like things might be even more different in your situation. Do you get your hands on these kids how young are you guys starting with? And, is it middle school? Is it younger than that? Talk about how you develop such or have a good system for your program.
Well, we start really in T-ball. We have a guy in our town who owns 3 fields named Noel Spearing. His son will be on our team this year as a junior. But he kind of starts a T-ball thing, and we do that T-ball through 6th grade. It's all parent coaches, and I'm not saying we have a huge hand in that. We just facilitate a lot of it. As far as whenever me and our high school staff steps in and really starts in 7th grade, we do a lot of workouts with those guys. We hire coaches to work with our junior high kids, and then as high school coaches, we coach those age groups in the summer. So we coach our 7th and 8th graders in the summer. So when they step onto campus first day of their freshman year, they're ready to go. They understand everything that we have. And then from there, we practice all 3 of our high school levels together every day. So it really kind of gives us the opportunity to where we're developing as many reps for our freshman guys as we are for our senior guys. So by the time they're seniors, everything's really expected. And we do everything the same way, grades 7 through 12. All of our systems, all of our terminology is the exact same. So it allows us to build a tremendous amount of program depth. And then sometimes those guys pop into great players. Chris Massey was not a guy who was a great player as a freshman, and now he ended up being an all-state level pitcher who's at Central Missouri. Hayden Larson was not a great player, and now he's got a chance to be an all-state level pitcher as a senior and go on and have a good college career because we just kind of have a lot of kids that come up through that.
Love it.
I do too. That's outstanding. Because it's such a markable difference from what we see within the St. Louis area with the clubs and the things of that nature. So I think that's an interesting tact. I love that, and I love the thought process. And that's one of the things I think. Don't sleep on dads. I know sometimes we get caught up in the daddy ball, and we kind of make fun of the kid, coach's kid and all that stuff. No, parents are invested in their children. I believe that. I know you both probably have children, and I know Kevin does, and I'm sure you do. You're both invested in the success of your children. Sometimes we can get carried away as parents. I know I have, and I'm sure we can all look at things and we go, "Oh, that was bad." But in the end, I think utilizing those resources in that scenario, and focusing it in the right direction is key to the success. Yeah.
It's definitely key to the success. I think every town, every community has their pluses and minuses.
Sure.
Our plus is that we're a class 5 or 6 school with a 2 stoplight town, and everyone's known each other since they were 5 or 6. And so it's just, you grow up doing this. That brings its own limitations as well. But we have a lot of strengths. CBC and and Vianney, they have a lot of strengths, and then they've got to accentuate those and cover up some of the things that are a little bit tougher for them. They're in a much different situation than we're in. And so, I think if Mason Horn and I both switched jobs, we would both be like, what in the world is going on? And because we run very different programs, and I don't think I would be as successful at CBC as Mason is. I think it's just you're fighting different things, and you're trying to build into different strengths all the time. And so we're just trying to take advantage of the strengths that we have, which is that we're a very small, close, tight-knit community.
I love that.
And that's what I love about baseball specifically, because it's not a one-man sport. Sometimes in basketball, if you have the guy that's, let's say he's going to a top 5 school in the country for college, that team's most likely going to have a chance to win state. That's not the case in baseball. Now, sure, it does help to have that guy on the mound, and it can make for a tough night. But we people sometimes get into the private versus public school, and can public schools be competitive? Track record of public schools win championships and all. It's better for the schools than it has been the private schools over an extended period of time. So I think there are certainly some advantages to certain situations, but then there's some strings attached to that as well. And on the opposite side of the coin, that what Coach is talking about, it's vice versa. So it is all perspective and play to your strengths, right, Coach? Yeah. Instead of yeah.
It is. And then the other advantage that we have is that we can tailor our team and focus our things because we know exactly who's coming. So the last couple of years, we've been pretty power heavy in our lineup. And now we're going to be able to, we've known this is coming. And so we have made some changes to the way we're going to run our offense because we know we're going to be way more skilled this year. We're just not going to be as physical. And so we've been able to plan that out. And it's something we've noticed since 6th, 7th, 8th grade with these guys. And so that really helps you kind of foresee the future.
Very good. Coach, always a pleasure, man. Thank you very much for joining us. Do appreciate it. Great knowledge. Appreciate it a lot. Kevin, as always, man, good stuff.
It's a fun one. Thanks, Coach McGee.
Thank you guys for having me on and talk Southwest Missouri baseball. Love to do it anytime.
Absolutely. Guys, appreciate it. If you like what we're doing, please hit the subscribe button. Hit that dinger next to it because that's what we do around here. We hit dingers. That will get you notifications for upcoming episodes of YBMcast for more great information like what we got here. And these gentlemen bringing the knowledge of high school baseball in the Midwest. So thanks so much. Everybody have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers. Kevin, what should pitchers do?
Throw strikes.
There you go, Coach. Right? But the hitters, they're trying to hit them where they ain't. So there you go. That's the battle. Everybody, we'll see you next time.